And the night had been long. So he came up and he had deep thoughts and he said, where do I begin? And someone in the back said, as near to the end as possible. So taking that in stride, I'm going to try to do that. About 3 weeks ago, my son Andrew, who's 5 years old, came into our room at 4 o'clock in the morning and said, Daddy, Mommy, I've decided I want to be like God. Now, I know that warms the heart of many parents, but for my son Andy, that was a frightening thing. The best way I can explain it is the last thing he did in a string of things was, I have a glass of wine at the meal, sometimes at home. My wife has never had a sip of wine in her life. And since he's been 3 for the last 2 years, he sort of has watched this. We haven't said much, but he's watched this. I didn't think he was even paying attention. So I went away for 3 days, and I came back. I hadn't seen him, and I came in, and my wife had a glass of wine for me. And Andrew comes downstairs, and he sees me, and he goes, hey, the wine man's home. Now, I know some of you think this guy doesn't know how to teach his kid respect. And I used to say the same thing, but then I had Andy, so I don't say anything anymore. So then we started to laugh about this thing. Andrew wanted to be like God. But then, day 1 passed, and day 2 passed, and all of a sudden we started seeing Andrew up in the morning at the crack of dawn, all dressed with his bed made, his hair slicked over to the side, and the breakfast plates had been laid out. This all came at the same time as my wife had been extremely tired. She has been for a lot of years. We have a new baby. One of my sons has a lot of handicap needs, and she's been tired. But it finally dawned on us after we laughed about it that in the deep of the night, with nobody telling him, Andrew had somehow figured out that the best way he could make this plan of his to be like God was to serve his mommy. And that's a novel idea, isn't it? In fact, my wife said, maybe you should have thought about that. I'm trying! But anyway, we started to realize that Andrew, day in and day out, was lifting the burden of his mother, really was. And that he was making it easier to handle the day-to-day functions. Now, I know you know where I'm going with this. Andrew was reflecting the character of God the best way he knew how. And all of you who are being honored tonight do that the same. Now, I know that that embarrasses a lot of you because you don't see yourself that way. I know that you don't feel that way. But see, you wouldn't because you're doing those qualities day to day, but the rest of us see you reflecting it. That's what you do when you give of yourself every day. I have experienced that from a lot of different people. Milo Bunye, who's not here, was the coach for my son. And he just had this gentle quality with my son and made my son Daniel respond. Now, I've always wanted to be, and I mean this sincerely, the guy that Danny came to when it came to sports and things. But I never seemed to be able to communicate with him. And it always upset me because I never understood why. You know, it's not like I'm an intense person or anything. But in that little way, this is the truth. Milo lifted my burden by showing me how to deal with my son. When I saw my dad die recently, I struggled still with the fact that I just couldn't break away from work. I tried to, and I talked about it, but I just didn't do it. And then he died. But I saw so many people that weren't my dad's son being there, lifting my mother's burden and helping him through it. And I was able to see more how the reflection of what Andrew saw. Now, understand, this only lasted for 4 days with Andrew. But it's 2 more days than it lasted with me. How lifting the burden really makes us get through life. And it's all different people. You know, it's not the brightest people or the shiningest people. I remember when I was at Marist, where's Deb DiCaprio? She's over there. You probably remember this story. I had counseled thousands of people, but I remember like 3, and one of the guys, he wasn't a bright guy, but I remember him because he had a heart of gold. He was a bright guy. He's got a job now, but you know what I mean, the brightest guy. The best way I can explain it is this. He came up to me one day and said, Mr. Michos, I got the same teacher for 4 classes. And I said, okay. I said, how do you do that in college? He said, I don't know. A Dr. Tabai. So I said, all right. You know, a lot of diversity around. Let me look. Dr. Tabai. So I look, and next to his classes it says TBA. Means the teachers for those classes are to be announced. He's got Dr. Tabai. But, you know what? He had a heart of gold. And he was always there for people. And he always served people. And I remember him. And he's doing fine. You know, after you go through those stages in life where you kind of, and I've used this example before for those of you who have seen me speak before, but I think it's appropriate. Once you've gone through the 3 stages of Christmas, there's really no place to go. Either you serve yourself or you serve others. And you know the 3 stages of Christmas. First you believe in Santa Claus, then you don't believe in Santa Claus, and then you are Santa Claus. But what happens is that once you reach that stage of being Santa Claus, either that expression that we have as people that was created in us, either is to give to yourself, which is fine, but it's inward. And so eventually it goes in and in and in and in and in and it dies out. Or you give to others outward. And it goes out and 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 it touches tons of people. To most of you in the room here, that's a simple concept. That's why you're here. For most of us who are older, I think we've learned to experience that through pain and things. Nickelodeon Channel is doing this thing now called The Big Help. Many of you have heard about it. They're trying to get young kids and teenagers to volunteer. And they did a survey, and I think upwards 80%, you know it's more if it's only 80% that came back, of the students that they asked about volunteering and community service said they see it as a form of punishment. They see it as a form of punishment. That's because in many of our children and our teenagers and young adults in today's society, they're still in the believing in Santa Claus stage. And we see the results of that. I don't even have to get into it, especially this week. So I was asked to speak here. And I say to myself, you know, I don't volunteer my time that much. But I felt that through the expression of my son showing me that everything that we do, and it's you that do it. I mean, you're not being honored here unless you've really touched people's lives. And again, I know it embarrasses you to be compared with the qualities of God. But if you could just bear with it for a little bit, we want to say thank you to you. All of the people who nominated you want to say thank you to you. And, you know, remember, in so much as you've done it unto the least of these, in so much as you've done it unto me, in so much as you've done it unto all of us, you've done it unto him. So, please, keep reflecting the character of God, and the rest of us will learn it. And we want to say thank you to you. So thank you.